Hello everyone, I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel. I had promised a review for Shelli Murdermind by Brode, so I wanted to get that in today. You guys know I'm going to say good things about it because I've been ranting about this series. I'll put links to my reviews to Brode's previous work. We had him on the channel, we interviewed him. But Shelli, the first book, Shelli was my first Brode book I ever read. Heard the premise of it, heard some of the stories he'd written before, really liked the kind of ideas that he had for science fiction, and I love this book. Raved about it, thought it was really great. It's a detective story, but it also deals in a future, not too far away future, where there are synthetics, house cleaning bots, nanny bots, sex bots, all these kinds of things, but Shelli is tasked, she works for the Department of Homeland Security, if I got that right. I always mix that up with the Department of Defense, which also shows up in the second book, so just a brain glitch on my own. But her job, she's a synthetic, and she was designed to help capture synthetics who go rogue, somehow like jump their programming and start killing humans or something like that. And this book was really great. Started into that, it went places I didn't expect it to go. Really cool characters. You enjoy spending time with them. Jake, who ends up being the human, who's her partner. There's on the one hand, there's some Scully Mulder vibes just in the terms of the dynamic of the team being out there, the duo being out there solving crimes, but they're completely different characters in their own right. Really interesting. You enjoy spending time with them. And this book, as I said in my first review, it ended in a spot where if there were no more stories in this universe, it was okay. It wasn't a cliffhanger, but it left me just dying for more. I wanted to spend more time in this universe, spend more time with these characters. I did read Brode's Ship trilogy. Haven't read the third one yet, but I read that behind me, which is really great science fiction. It's a different slant. It's more like a science fiction horror. You can look at my review videos of that, which I like, but this is really my bread and butter. I like this kind of science fiction, and this is just why I love this novel so much. So I've been dying for the sequel. It's finally released. He was nice enough to send me a copy anyway. This is everything I wanted in a Shelli sequel, and I don't say that lightly. There's a tendency in sequels, and sometimes it's done well, like Back to the Future or Star Wars, but I tend just to not like this type of sequel setup where, and it usually happens in movies, right? Where the first story comes out, and it's a solid ending, right? There's more that could be explored, but it's a solid ending. Think about The Matrix, for example. Okay, well then they're going to make a sequel of it, so they come out with part 2, which is very much just a stepping stone to part 3. So rather than a cohesive trilogy, it feels more like one standalone story and then a 2-part story. That's what it feels like when these trilogies happen. And like I said, it can be done well, like a Back to the Future 2 or Empire Strikes Back or something like that. But I was happy to see that this isn't what this feels like. Shelli Murdermind does not feel like a stepping stone to a third one that'll finally close out the story. No. This is a great, I'm pretty sure, I think he told me he was writing another one, but I can't be sure if I'm remembering that correctly. So hopefully he's writing more in this series, but this could be the end. If this was the end, it's perfectly satisfying. And it does what a sequel should do, which takes all of the things you love about the first book, the chemistry between the characters, the good things about the setup and everything, but you have to raise the stakes. The second book can't just be, it's not like a murder mystery series where it's just, the little character development and it's just basically the same detective coming in to solve a new crime. The crimes are what's different in that. That's not the case here. I mean, Shelli is a very different being in this book than she was here. Jake has gone through a lot, and he's a very different person with different things that he has to care about and think about and be responsible for in this one. Really great stuff. And what I love about books that explore, they call them synthetics in this, but androids, I'm always fascinated by AI that are science fiction that deals with AI on whatever level. You be them droids in Star Wars or, lifelike androids or the synthetics in this. And every now and then people who aren't able to think through a coherent thought all the way will say, well, how come you hate AI so much, but you love stories about it? Duh, duh, duh. Because I know what stories are supposed to do. I know what mythology is supposed to do. It's possible you could write an AI story that takes some sort of stance on AI art today or something like that. But what good mythology or good science fiction should do is take a look at the future, look at possible technologies we'll have, possible situations we might be in, and there's the fictional part of it. And then that is helping us sort of recontextualize any struggles or any, issues we have in our own humanity today. So when you look at like Shelli, is it possible for her to have a romantic relationship with a human being? That's not so much a commentary on can somebody have a relationship with their AI girlfriend app today. It's more a commentary on, human beings being different. It's like when you read a fantasy book. Or let's keep it in science fiction levels. When you're in Star Trek and there are Vulcans and Romulans or whatever, was there a conflict between the two? They're going to war, or there's a romantic relationship. It's not saying just in case, you guys ever find aliens out there. No, it's to help us now to think of people who are different than us or might feel like the other or something like that. And that's just one very surface level application. I'm not trying to reduce this to some sort of allegory like that at all. I'm just saying that's why I love this type of science fiction. This story really does, like I said, it ups the stakes in an interesting way because it was kind of hard to top the villain for Shelli 1. And I'm really trying to not give spoilers because I can't encourage you enough to read these books. If you like detective fiction, read these books. If you like science fiction, read these books. Or just any kind of futuristic, tech kind of area. I just love it. So what was I saying? I lost my train of thought there. I forget what I was saying. I had a thought, but let me just try and come back to it if I can think of it. But Shelli's in a different situation at this point. As I said, Jake's in a situation at this point. Another thing that Doug Brode does well in his books, I've seen it in the Ship trilogy, is that he'll introduce certain characters who are, they're not the main bad guy, but they're very antagonistic to your main characters, right? They serve as a challenge. They're opposition in some which way or another. And then you end up kind of learning more about them, and then there's like an uneasy alliance formed sometimes, or sometimes you just sort of kind of get them. You still don't maybe like them, or you don't really root for them, but you get them. You understand them a little bit better. Doug Brody's really good at not writing any two-dimensional simplistic characters. Even the big baddie of this book is a really fascinating, like I said, it was hard to beat he called it when he was on my interview on my channel, sort of a Professor Moriarty type villain, if you know the reference from Sherlock Holmes. And that very much was the villain of Shelli. And he didn't go that route with Murdermind, and you might think, well, it's kind of hard to beat. That's like the ultimate villain, But this is so much more interesting. We get a lot more travel around the country in this one. Although we got, you're going to Alaska even in the first one. But you get more travel around the country, a little bit more time spent. Developments happen with Shelli and Jake. I want to say certain things, but I don't want to spoil them. Because Jake's got this new responsibilities in his life that really multi-layers the themes and things to think about. What about human-machine joinings? We have joint replacements. Is that machine? Well, that's not really automated, something like an artificial heart then. Or what about nanobots? If you could, if they actually had nanobots to inject in your blood to fix this or that, so it raises great questions, and it does what science fiction does. It doesn't pontificate on them. It doesn't say, so this is the right thing and that's the wrong thing. And, it's not propaganda. It just explores these really cool ideas and leaves it for you to kind of think about and explore in new ways on your own. So I love that. I love, too, that there's sometimes writers will do this weird thing with a villain that I think it's just in order maybe to keep the villain going into another book or something. But it really grates on me as a reader when there's a villain that you're really angry with. You can't stand, right? Because they're posing a real threat. They're well done, and they're, really causing a lot of challenges for your heroes. And then the heroes find some way to overcome this villain, and then the villain will say, no matter, that didn't even matter to me anyway, because this is really what I'm doing anyway, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, I get that maybe an egotistical, narcissistic villain might say that in the moment, but as a reader, I want the satisfaction of knowing, ha, you were foiled, or heroes, kicked your butt or whatever. I want a little bit of, consternation on the villain's face or something like that. And we really get some cool moments in this with people that you think are the villain, but they're not quite the villain, this and that. I mean, it's just satisfying. It's a satisfying ending too. And the ending leaves us in a surprising place. I'll say this. Like the first Shelli, this is open for more. Like I said, I'm hoping we get another book. So I loved it. what I'm hoping for, this isn't a criticism, but what I'm hoping for in a third book, and the ending here sets it up pretty nicely. Like I said, I like the chemistry between Jake and Shelli. You know, Jake the human and Shelli the synthetic, and they're solving crimes together. I like that chemistry. But in this book, you think about it, there's been a 5-year gap, I will tell you that, between the first book and the second book. But you think about it, by the end of the second book, they've really still only worked 2 cases together. Now, these are really expansive, deep, involved cases that take a lot of time, take them all the way across. I mean, so yeah, all of their things that they've gone through, they are truly partners, you know, all of that kind of stuff. It's natural, and that feels, you know, satisfying. That's not forced or anything. But you just think about it, it was still only 2 cases, really. And that's fine, but I'm just... I say this because I love when I'm reading a story and I get a really good chemistry or a good situation going, I want it to continue. So I'm hoping that by the third book, maybe they'll have had a bunch of cases, or maybe we'll see more cases or whatever. Maybe you guys can tell me, is that just me? I like the idea of these characters. If I love them, I like the idea of them still being out there, or at least having had a time span out there where they had multiple adventures. I'm thinking about movies like... well, this is one of the reasons why I hated Serenity back in the day. It's a great movie, and I like it now, absolutely. But I was one of those people that liked Firefly, the series, right? And it was so short-lived, tragically cut short, and I was one of the people calling for more. And they finally decided, okay, Joss Whedon's going to give you a movie. Okay, great. And then instead of giving us a continuation of their stories in the movie, Joss Whedon's like, and then a bunch of them die, and here's the end of their story. You know, yeah, it ended with a way that could cause more adventures elsewhere, but it was a definitive end to everything that we loved about the series. And I was like, I wanted more of that, you know? So anyway, maybe I'm the only one like that. Maybe different readers or different viewers are like that. But that's not a criticism of the book at all. The book gives us that. I'm just saying, looking forward to the third one, I'm hoping to get more of that, or at least to know that there was some sort of gap and they've had more great cases together. Because I can't help thinking this would make a great miniseries one day. Just this universe and everything like that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Shelli Murdermind. Trying to be careful not to give away too much. But if you haven't read Murdermind, definitely start with Shelli. I've got links in the description below where you can get Shelli. If you like a little bit more like supernatural horror, try his Ship trilogy. That's great, but I mean, this is a writer who's cranking out some great novels, and they're new. I mean, to me, it's kind of rare to find new fiction today that I can actually get behind and really support. So this is great. So I'd recommend you check it out. And until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the true blue hero stories you love. Thanks for watching.